Need another reason to get rich? This is a pretty good one. This is the Mercedes G550 4x4 squared. So if you guys know this channel, you know I don't really do a whole lot of reviews, but that's something I'm thinking about changing, especially on vehicles like this, something that's definitely different, and it certainly is. The last review I did, you may have seen it, that was 2 videos back, was on the F-150 Raptor Baja Edition. That belongs to the same owner as this. I will put his handle on the bottom of the screen here on Instagram, so you guys can go ahead and blast him like you did last time and make me look useful, and follow me while you're at it as well. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So starting with the engine, this uses the same 4-liter V8 from the standard G550 that produces 416 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque, although I will say the owner told me that this has gone through a tune to bring those numbers significantly higher. The 4x4 squared weighs 6,825 pounds, so it's definitely not a featherweight. So that engine with the weight of this, you can expect to get 11 miles to the gallon. That's city and highway according to Mercedes. I guess fuel consumption isn't so much measured in miles to the gallon, but gallons to the mile. In the case of this, you can literally go on the highway and watch that needle drip down. So there is not a hole in the fuel tank. That's just the way it is. Production numbers are going to run pretty low. I believe it's 300 are to be produced for the United States market. So yeah, if you see one, you're looking at a rare bird. Now, of course, have to mention price. This starts with an MSRP of $227,300, but you can usually find them for significantly more than that just because of the low production numbers. You can go on Auto Trader right now. That's what I have looked into to get me the price of. You could find them for about $240,000, $245,000, all the way to the highest prices I've seen are $320,000. Just depends on new, used, mileage, the specs, all that kind of stuff. But I would say if you have $250,000 cash, you should be pretty squared. That was a pun. Now, to mention the obvious, the size. It is not a small vehicle, just under 7.5 feet in height. Yeah, I will try to maybe get some B-roll of it next to my GT350 just for perspective. Not that the GT350 is a tall vehicle, but it's a pretty normal vehicle. So look at it next to that. For US homologation, any vehicle that is wider than 80 inches is kind of a commercial grade vehicle, and it is mandated that it has those yellow semi-truck looking running lights. This one is 82 inches, so that is why you have the red lights in the back and then the orange ones on the carbon fiber piece up there. That is probably the only US homologation rule I am not upset about because I think it looks pretty cool. Same thing with the Raptors. Now, speaking of homologation, you also see in that carbon fiber panel the 2 running lights are not actually running lights. They're there, but they're not connected to anything. You cannot turn them on. I do not know why the US decided that would be unsafe. And then the last thing I'm going to mention about homologation, the back has that one kind of afterthought looking bumper. That is because this is just a taller vehicle than most vehicles. So if you get rear-ended, they want the other person to not go directly under you. They want them to actually hit your vehicle. Now, speaking of that clearance, this vehicle is not all show, no go. As far as some lifted trucks, the axles still stay low and the clearance isn't really any useful other than looks. This definitely looks tall and the clearance is pretty ridiculous. 18 inches of clearance, and that is thanks to the portal axles. What that is in a nutshell, I'll show you some close-ups. It is to where the axle is above the center of the wheels. So that is not easy, not cheap to produce, but definitely well worth it. 18 inches in clearance is pretty crazy. I'm only half joking about cars driving under this thing. Now, I know you're still thinking 6,825 pounds. How'd they get it so light? Okay, maybe you weren't thinking that. But anyway, there's a lot of carbon fiber components, like I've mentioned with the top, with the running lights that are not running lights, and then the homologation lights. All that is a carbon fiber panel. It looks very, very nice. The 4 fenders, which are huge fenders, by the way, made out of carbon fiber. And then from the inside, which we'll touch on a little bit more in a second, but yeah, a lot of carbon fiber components here. And it's all real, as you would expect for the pretty penny that the 4x4 squared runs for. Now, getting inside the 4x4 squared is kind of an event on its own. I think most people would tell you it's not that fun and not easy, but this is YouTube, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I'm about 6'6", which roughly translates to I'm really about 6 foot. And 20 years young, 6 feet tall. It's actually very easy for me to get in. As far as the driver's side, the door swings out open just fine, and you just kind of put one foot in, grab the steering wheel, and then you swing up. It's pretty darn easy. A little bit more difficult, not by much for the back, because you're a little bit more narrow to climb in, but you could grab the rail or this handle up here on the passenger side, so you don't have to touch the carbon fiber or touch anything else, but you just kind of put that there, put one of your feet on the boards, and then just plot yourself in. After all that hard work of getting in, you get to see the beautiful interior. Now, this has to be one of my favorite things of the whole 4x4 squared thought, and that is not just the interior, but hear me out. From the outside, it is this German, obnoxious looking monster truck, but then you climb inside, once you make the tall climb, and you're just kind of like nestled in this beautiful interior with carbon fiber, leather, Alcantara inserts with leather on the steering wheel, quilted diamond stitching with Alcantara and more leather white stitching, and it's just beautiful. And you forgot that this thing is just this rowdy looking monster truck from the outside. That is one of the coolest things. I mean, you're way up here, so high up from the mere mortals on the road, and you just feel kind of like a king, I have to say. Now, the interior is so nice and comfortable, I'll go as far to say that this thing can be daily driven, because it is from the current owner. But there's only two things. Whenever I call a sports car a daily driver, I consider ground clearance. Is it too low? This one, is it too high? Now, I don't know if there's any parking garages or whatever that will give this thing any trouble. Possibly not. But this thing won't fit in like 95% of homes, garages in the United States. This thing is very, measure your garage. Maybe it's 7.5 feet tall. But yeah, it's not for the cookie cutter homes and communities, because it just might not fit in the garage. Other than that, the only other downside is the fuel consumption. Like I said, 11, that is what Mercedes says. If you want to enjoy it, any kind of form of spiritedly and experience of 416 plus horsepower, yeah, you're going to be way away from the double digits. But back to the interior. Like I've already mentioned, with all the carbon fiber, the diamond stitching, all that stuff, you have 5 seats total, 3 in the back, 2 right here. You have the trunk, which opens like a normal door. That's one thing I have to mention totally on its own as well. You know, those kind of people who look at like the 70s and 60s and earlier kind of cars, close the door, open the door, and they hear the metal kind of tactile clicking and sound, and they say they don't make them like that anymore, they don't make them like they used to. Those type of people will love this thing, because this is so tactile. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear from the inside, but I'll do this again on the outside. I don't know if you're going to be able to pick that up. I'll try to do that from the outside, but it is just, when you click the outside buttons, it's just this heavy, heavy lock that just gets released, and you close it and you have to put some muscle behind it. That is very cool, and that's kind of the whole ethos of the 4x4 square tank. But back to what I was saying, yeah, the trunk opens like a normal door. You have some space back there, and then you can fold the lumbar on the rear seats and then fold them once more to reveal the full ground all the way up to about right here. So you have plenty of room if you wished for that. It's also got a rear view backup camera, because it's mandated now, but it is a very nice one with the guided lines. It's got Harman Kardon sound system, sounds very good. And yeah, that's kind of all I need to go over. I'm not going to go over every little button and every little piece of infotainment that this thing has, that you would expect for a Mercedes at this price anyway. But yeah, daily drivable, yes, if you're willing to be good friends with those at the fuel station, because you'll get to know them very soon. So I think I kind of covered everything that I wanted to as far as the review. I think now we'll just do some driving impressions and all that good stuff. So you take the key, you put it in the key slot there, hold down the brake, and then rotate it. Now, one thing to mention is the exhaust sound. Sounds pretty darn good. I'm just going to listen to it from here. That is a definite burble that you would expect from like an AMG engine, although it's not an AMG engine. But yeah, it sounds very, very good, and just burbles every now and then when you kind of like let off on the overrun, slow speeds. It just burbles very, very nicely. Just matches the whole thought of this car, which I think is pretty nice. Go ahead and let it warm up, then I'll do some revs. All right, so right now it's like at about 650, 700 RPM, and let's just do 1,000. That was about 1,200. Just sounds like a growling tiger. Or a purring one. Let's do 2,000. You may have heard the overrun pops right there. That sounds really good. Let's do 2,500. Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah. Like I said, I think this sound matches the characteristic of this 4x4, this tank, very nicely. Anyway, without any further ado, let's go ahead and drive it out of this neighborhood, kind of see how it is at slow speeds, and then do some highway stuff and see how it goes. If you guys could hear that, when I cross like a certain speed, all the locks just go down. Like I said, it just sounds so mechanical and just so heavy. Very, very cool. Little things like that I pick up on, and I really like that. Coming up on the stop sign here, you can kind of get an idea when you let off the brake just how much the thing just tilts forward and pitches. Now, I'll touch on that in just a second, because there is a sport suspension to stiffen that up, and it'll kind of mitigate the body roll. Now, I got a good amount of miles behind the wheel of this thing, but I don't think I've ever actually done the sport suspension. But to be honest, I would expect a little bit more body roll even in this normal setting. Now, it's got some, just obviously for the height and the size and the weight of the thing, but like I said, I have not experienced the stiffer suspension. I think I'm going to wait till I'm out there a little bit more and see how it goes. It gets attention as well. That's one thing I have to mention from the riding I've done in this thing. I don't know why I had the assumption that it wouldn't get that much attention. Just because there's a lot of G-Wagons out there. I get that this is special, but I thought you'd have to be a car person to pick up on it. Yeah, no, not at all. Everybody looks at this thing. It's pretty ridiculous. I think it actually gets a lot more attention than many exotics nowadays. Now, in case I haven't mentioned it in the stationary part of the review, I definitely have to mention how easy this is to drive, which is pretty cool because I would expect, I've said this in the truck review I did, like my first truck experience was like in a F350 and I thought I was driving this like monstrous skyscraper and I was in every lane. This is a huge vehicle, but I don't get that at all. The visibility is very good. Yeah, you just look around, all the windows, it's like a fishbowl, everything, you know, no weird blind spots. Everything's actually really easy and you're so tall, so you get the benefit of driving a big vehicle without the overwhelmingness. That's the biggest takeaway I get from driving this thing. That's coming from a long-time sports car owner. In fact, I haven't even owned anything other than coupes my whole life. So, yeah, really, really like that. If I'm also going to keep on touching on mundane things like visibility and stuff, we should also mention air conditioning is working really nice on this somewhat warm day. And I will show you how well the Harman Kardon sound system is, but copyright music and I can't monetize this and I got to pay those bills. So just take my word for it, it's pretty darn good. All right, got this roundabout coming up here. Let's go ahead and apex this. Again, on the normal suspension. A lot of steering input, but very, very, I guess, predictable. The steering wheel is awesome, by the way. I love Alcantara steering wheels, as you guys know. Oh, where'd you guys go? Damn, that's what I get for apexing. Anyway, what I think I'm going to do, since I'm going to exit out of this neighborhood, is throw it onto sport suspension. Try to take this corner at some kind of reasonable speed and see how it compares with the now stiffer suspension. And you're gone. From what I realized, maybe you guys weren't able to see it, yeah, it definitely is a lot more flat. I'm gonna wait till I hit like a red light or a stop sign so I can stop, see how the boatiness feels. But yeah, right now on the sport suspension, yeah, a lot firmer. About to hit a red light. I put it on sport suspension. I noticed a little bit of front tilt, obviously, as you would expect, but let's see how it rocks afterward. It's got some. You guys probably are being able to, will be able to pick that up on camera, but for the remainder of this, let's put it in comfort. But yeah, fixes that a bit. We're gonna have to do some wide open throttle runs. That is, if I have enough fuel with a quarter tank. But anyway, yeah, let's see how that goes. Try to take this corner slowly so the camera doesn't go crazy on me again. But anyway, straighten out here. Again, normal mode, everything like that. We're at 25 miles an hour. I'm going to gun it. See how it goes. Damn. And there is 75. That picks up exceedingly well. Like, I've ridden in this thing plenty of times, but it's different when you actually do the acceleration. That was normal mode, and it picked up so much that the front end actually got a little light, which is pretty exciting. Wow. So we're now doing about 70 on this road, and a lot of people, I've seen other reviews, they complain about wind noise because the front screen is so flat and vertical. It's probably not the most aerodynamic thing in the world, but people complain about this like wind buffeting and just this jarring kind of noise. It's really windy today, so this is the day I would really pick up on that. It's not that bad. I mean, like, most Mercedes might have less road noise than this one, but considering, I think this is actually not bad at all. Like I said, now we're doing about 65. I'm raising my voice just so you guys can pick up on the mic, but I really don't have to have a conversation with a passenger or something like that. All right, so went into this neighborhood just so I could do another pull, and I think for this one, let's try to make it as different from the last one. So I put the sport suspension on, and I'm gonna go ahead and press the 3-mode button, the sport, eco, and manual. Let's do this in manual. Now when you're in manual, it says M1 or M2, depending on the gear you're in. So right now, just flipped it, we're in second, third. Let's see if it allows me to go into second here again. This thing hides the speed very, very well. I thought that I would know exactly what speed I'm doing because this is a really large vehicle, but I was doing about 80 there, and I thought I was going to be doing about 60, to be honest with you. So it hides speed pretty darn well, probably just because of the comfort. And this thing's so high off the ground. You're about to see a F350 pass me here. Just pay close attention. And you're probably able to see his roof line. I don't know, maybe it's a little overexposed. This thing is just like something else. Going back to the acceleration there, I don't know why there's a little bit of delay there, maybe because I waited too long between second and third. Third and fourth though, the shifts themselves were pretty quickly, a little delay from the paddle as I would expect with a vehicle like this. Yeah, just try to look at these trucks here passing me. That was like a Silverado. Here is some kind of, I don't even know what Hyundai truck that is. Anyway, yeah, I'm like just looking at everyone's roof lines, and you're so high up in this luxury cabin, you feel like you're just, you know, levitating above everyone in like this Lear jet. It's actually pretty cool. So I've done my pulls with the car. I get an idea on how it performs. It's pretty darn good. I now see why the average fuel consumption is pretty atrocious. But is it worth it? I think so. I think for the remainder of the drive, I'm just going to drive like a little sissy, like most people with their standard G-Wagons that just have them for bringing their kiddos to soccer practice or parking on Rodeo Drive. Whereas this one is not so much for that, although you can bring the kiddos to soccer practice and you can take a detour on the way as well. That's kind of the cool thing about the 4x4 squared. The off-roading capabilities with the ground clearance are actually very possible. The owner of this one's done it a few times as well. Need to capture that on video. I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, other than that, I think I've kind of covered everything in the stationary video. I think I've kind of covered my impressions with the beast on the road. I think I'm about done. So this might have been a lengthier video because it is a review, but that just about sums it up. Anyway, if you guys like these kind of video formats, this review format, then let me know and I can find some other vehicles and keep doing these reviews because they're pretty fun to make. But anyway, I think I'm going to end this video saying thanks to the owner by filling it up and going broke. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a good day.